so in today's video I'm going to be making fashion for some of the strongest builds that I've released since the final shape, and these builds are from Llama, Castle Content and Mactics. Now obviously this is a very different style of video as I am using a face cam, but if you do like this style of video then please let me know in the comments and be sure to leave a like on this video. Also be sure to comment what creators build you want me to make fashion for next. Anyways, with all out the way, I will be starting with Llama's Hunter build using the new exotic Gifted Conviction. I haven't actually made fashion for this exotic yet, so this has been a great opportunity for me to make something. And basically with this set, I wanted it to give off the look of Ark. That's why I'm using the shader Kairos Bronze to get the blue glows on both the cloak and the boots. And with this exotic, you definitely want to use more rounded, like plated armor pieces. That's why I found the Eternal Vengeance to work really well in the arms here. And Kairos Bronze is easily one of the cleanest and best shaders in the game, and I bet a lot of you actually have this and just haven't tried it out yet. So I definitely recommend it. And the reason why I'm using Dawning Tranquility on this helmet is because, let me show you now, with the shader Kairos Bronze, it uses more of the white on the top half with the bronze on the bottom, which, you know, from afar doesn't look as good. So I found Dawning Tranquility to actually add more of the bronze. That's why I used the shader there as well, in case you wanted to know. Now the only piece of this set which you cannot get right now is the Virtuous, which was only available for a limited time. Now I would instead recommend the Thunderhead Strides from Neomuna, and the reason why I'm going to show you now is because it creates a nice transition from the chest to the boots here. There's like these straps at the bottom, so it leads very nicely into these boots, and it almost looks seamless how they like transition together. And I basically want to show you a bit of a different look with this exotic. So if you don't want to spend money on the Fortnite set, that's completely fine. The Warmind avatar arms are very good with this chest plate. And for the helmet, let's just say we go with the Thunderhead again, because I quite like this helmet. With certain shaders, it'll look really good, as you'll see. Sorry, I forgot to mention as well that this cloak also is no longer available. So we're going to pick something else. And I feel like we should go for the Untethered Edge, which is this season's armor set. And with Kairos Bronze on the helmet as well, I think it does make for a pretty cool, like, futuristic cyber ninja sort of look. Probably going to go with a different shader though on this, because I want to make it look futuristic and shiny. So Ensilvered Snare is probably one of the best options I could suggest. And if you haven't already, go ahead and beat the Grasp of Avarice Flawless for this shader. You don't have to do it solo, you can do it in a group of 3. The shader is fantastic for fashion and definitely one of my top picks. If you like more of your darker, more neutral colours, I found Refined Revels to look really nice on this. The shader I believe was from Solstice, and it creates these gold accent colours. Good thing as well is that the Solstice is returning at the start of August, so you will be able to get this shader again. And just a small detail I'd like to point out is that the glow colour for the shader is like slightly blue, so it does fit Ark as well. Just a very small detail that I like to point out. Now I would also like to mention that there is an exotic ornament called Sincerity, and this seems to go with more of a tactical look, and I will quickly make some fashion for this as well. The boots, again, I think you could just stick with a Thundermead. I imagine the Dimosbone could look pretty good with this as well. Let's find it. Yeah, I can definitely see this one also being a good option. That's the 30th anniversary set if you don't know. But yeah, you can probably keep with a lot of the same stuff. I'm going to change some things around though, see what we can come up with. Oh, actually the Dimosbone arms are really good with this. Oh yeah, that definitely works. Yeah, let's just change everything around, try and make a different look that you all can use. I'm actually going to go ahead and use the Wastelander mask because this is one of my personal favorites. I know a lot of people may not like this, but I think it's great for a tactical look. Could even go Refugee and have this full, like, oh, that actually looks really good. You know, I know a lot of you love Superblack, so, you know, here's what I look like with Superblack as well. It does not shader the glow on the chest, which is actually good though because it's meant to fit the Ark subclass, so I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Right, so I've been looking at a few more helmet and cloak combinations for this set, and I found the Chrysler Green Helm from Europa to look really good with the Deep Explorer from the Duality Dungeon. Now the only issue is that it seems to have this weird like gap with the chest. It's not too big of an issue, but it is a little bit noticeable. Okay, so I just quickly switched over to Male Hunter, and you can see that, yeah, it's nowhere near as bad as it is on female. and it does actually work really well. So there's 72 notes with this cloak and chest piece combination. I also just switched back to the fun head strides and the shader Dreaming Spectrum, as I think it looks fantastic. Also, if you want the set to fit more with the look of Ark, you can also use the shader Sinking Feeling, which on plating you can see has this animated like lightning strike effect. It is very cool. And if you don't have it, it can sometimes be sold in the Bright Dust store. But yeah, that is all the Hunter fashion I made for Llama's Gifted Conviction build. And I'm now going to be moving on to Llama's next build, which is for the Warlock and uses the Mactics exotic. Okay, so this is the Warlock I made around the exotic. You can see I've created this sort of split in color with the top and bottom half. And I absolutely love the design of this, by the way. I think they look so nice. It's a nice symmetrical piece. Also, I am using the invisible bond interaction because I like how it looks symmetrical, so I didn't want any bond to be visible. And if you don't know how to do this, you need the Ancestral Bond, which is from an Eververse armor set, the Ghost of Tsushima set, and any Year 1 shader. If you don't have this though, or don't want to buy the whole set for one armor piece, then that's completely fine. I will show an obtainable alternative in a second. I just want to go over why I picked certain things. So the new shader Jade Murmur is from Gambit, and you can get it right now, and it just created this nice like bright green to match Strand, and then the bottom half goes with this more creamish color. That's why I'm using Gambit Suede on the boots. Also, these boots do have like nice heels, and I think it's quite a smart looking piece. So that's why I think it works well with these robes. And then moving on to my favourite parts of this set are my hood and gloves choice. Obviously with the Warlock build you throw a lot of needles, so I think having glowing green hands while throwing them would look really cool. And if you are missing these gloves, you will be able to buy them at the start of August when Solstice returns. And then for the helmet, I used the Lucid Knight from the Dawning events. And just like the gloves, the reason why I use this helmet is because the sharpness matches really well with the needles. Now, if you don't have the Lucidite hood, you could use the Raft Trail, which I do remember was sold for Bright Dust recently. It fits that same sort of sharp design. And another one that's good as well is the Northlight Crown, which is from an older Dawning set, so a lot of you might actually have this. And I also found with this set that the Hood of the Taken King didn't look too out of place because of the way the shader works on the robes. Also, before I forget, if you don't have the Ancestral Bond, I would just recommend something minimal like the Bond of Refuge, which you'll just need to unlock in Transmog through Ada 1. Now there's also an ornament for this exotic, and I found that what pairs extremely well with this is the Iron Remembrance hood. You can sort of see the helmet design here matches with like the curved bits coming out of the robes. And the shader I really liked with it was Nougat Delight, as it got this nice like sort of creamish colour with the green to match Strand. You could also use the new Strand shader Twisting Strands, which actually looks really cool on these armor pieces, creating a sort of like thread-like texture. Anyways, that is pretty much all the fashion for Llama's Matadoxia build. I'm now going to be moving on to Castle's Titan build using the new exotic Hazardous Propulsion. Now before I talk about this Titan fashion, I firstly want to mention that one of the comments on Castle's video talked about how they can finally be Gundam. And I actually made a Gundam set a couple of days ago, so here it is on screen right now. This is like the most accurate I could get to Gundam using like the armor and shaders in the game. Obviously some of you may not have Honors of the Nine, so here is also an obtainable version of the set. So yeah, I'll not be going over the exotic ornament for this exotic as I've already made Gundam fashion and I feel that fits perfectly. Now going back to this set, there is one piece here that I'd say is essential for this exotic fashion, and that is the Star-Crossed Footsteps. Now these were sold for Bright Dust a couple of weeks ago, and the reason why I think these are absolutely perfect is because of the way it transitions into the chest. So as we go onto the mark here, you can see the lining is almost perfect. Like it looks like they're just seamless. It just works so well together. Let's look. Yeah, this mark will show it better. So yeah, definitely use this one if you have it. Now the arms in this set are the Wall Watcher, which is the new Vanguard Ritual set, and I'll actually show you why this looks so good with this. So let's see, the shader is Avalon Teal. Again, another shader you should never sleep on. Fantastic shader. I believe Ada 1 can sometimes sell it. But what I'd like to point out is that with these arms, the way it's painted, you can see that it almost lines up perfectly with the exotic, and it's also not overly bulky. It's quite round and fits the designing the chest plate really well. And then you can see for the helmet, I'm using the Deep Explorer from the Duality Dungeon. Now this with Avalon Teal doesn't look too good, but if you pair it with Verdigris, I think this actually looks much better. It matches into the chest plate nicely, but also has a different color on the visor, which allows it to stand out, and I actually think looks really nice. But yeah, if you want to throw on any shader on this, I'd mainly recommend more neutral shaders. Refurbished Black Armory does actually look really cool. The only problem is these arms, and this can actually be fixed very easily with the Crimson Plume, which is the Crucible version of the Vanguard arms we were using. And the main difference is that it just applies the shader differently. So it removes a lot of that yellowish colour we were seeing. And yeah, it looks much better with this version of the arms. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention some alternatives for the boots in case you didn't pick them up for Bright Dust. So you want to use the Parade instead from Onslaught. And with these boots, I'd actually recommend the Moonfang instead, which is from the Prophecy Dungeon. I just checked on Vanguard Marshall and it made this really cool orange and black look for the set. But a lot of shaders will work really well with this. So yeah, just check on whatever you want, and I think you come up with some really cool sort of futuristic looks. And yeah, if you want to use Superblack with this, that works really well with it. I think Imperative also looks really good, yeah. So I remember this one looking really good. And yeah, you can pretty much just chuck whatever you want on it and it'll work really, really well. And yeah, I think that does it for the Hazardous Propulsion fashion. I feel I gave you all some good armor and shader suggestions. So now we'll move on to Castle's next build, which is actually a Fredlin Warlock build based around the Swarmer's exotic. Okay, so I've come up with something for the exotic. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really use Swarmers. I've made something a little interesting though. And it's basically a Strand Pirate. Yeah, so what I basically did was I used Gambit Emerald and it created this color split with the boots. So it made it sort of look like a leather jacket on the top half and then the boots are just green. So it creates a nice separation so you can see the sort of jacket look. Then I used the Untethered Edge gloves as they obviously fit the look of a jacket as well. I used the Tia Moss custom hat from the Spyro the Watcher dungeon. Yeah, then for the bond, it was something just quite minimal. I didn't go for anything crazy. It's the ossuary bond. And it just sort of turned into some sort of pirate look for the exotic. And also with these boots, I found the Veiled Tithes robes to work really well with this, mainly because of the patterns on the back and the front. They just work so well with these boots. And because of the shader, I got the red accent colours, so I paired it with the Illicit Invader hood. You know what though, I am actually starting to like this the more and more I'm like chucking shaders on it. There are definitely some really good picks like Rustberry. So yeah, I don't know, at first I wasn't really like happy with what I was making with this, but overall I think this is definitely better than the Strand Pirate. It's just very weird to make fashion for this exotic overall. And there's also an ornament for these boots called a Fish and Pursuit, which is so much easier to work with for fashion. So if you have these, I would highly recommend using them. In this sort of set, as you can see, I'm using the Technologic robes, which just looks so good. And I don't know why, these little like dangly bits, I don't know why I like stuff like it looks so cool. And then I paired that with the Thunderhead cover from Neomuna, the Untethered Edge once again. I think these gloves are so good. And then Street Scholar, because I want to sort of match the strand. So basically that's the reason why I went with green, with these brighter greens on the bonds and the glows on the helmet. It's just to match the strand subclass. Oh, and also for those of you that love Superblack, I know there's a lot of you, this set does look really clean with it. So that is the fashion I made for the Swarmers build. I'm quite happy with how it turned out. They can be a little bit annoying to fashion, but I think I made something quite creative with it. Now anyways, it's time we move on to the final 3 builds, which are all from Mactics. This first one is one that a lot of you probably used, and that is his Still Hunt Celestial Nighthawk build. Now before I get into this set, what I'd like to mention is that Mactics did use the Still Hunt exotic ornament. So this fashion will be based off that ornament. Now don't worry, it will be sold for Bright Dust this season. And what's even better about this is that there's already a set in the game that matches perfectly with the exotic ornament called Sun's Apex. The exotic ornament was actually based off this armor set, so if you don't mind using a full set, then you could just chuck this on with Celestial Nighthawk. But what I'm going to do is make a set around it using 2 pieces at most, the boots and the cloak. Now Bungie did not make a shader for the Sun's Apex armor set, so the closest shader I could find was New Monarchy Regalia, which Ada can sometimes sell. The chestplate is the Refulgent Revelry, which is from Solstice. If you don't have this, don't worry, it will return in August. And the reason why I use this is because it just pairs so well with these boots. Now to match like the sort of bird theme with the Celestial Nighthawk, I did use the Photonic Grips from Trials of Osiris. And the reason why I'm using the exotic ornament for the Celestial Nighthawk called Harafnagud is because the default version cannot fully shader. As you can see, there is white that goes against what the exotic ornament for Still Hunt looks like. So you will need to use an exotic ornament like the Harafnagud, or you could use the Filigree as well. That would also work quite nicely. But personally, I just like the Harafnagud design more with like the pointier beak. I just think it looks really cool. Now, I don't think this will happen, but if Bungie do bring back the Solstice 2019 armor sets in the next Solstice, then I would highly recommend the arms from this set. As you can see, it looks really cool with this Celestial Nighthawk look. And if you picked up the most recent Dawning set, the arms and cloak from this can also make your set look way more bird-like. Then these next 2 builds from Mactics are for Prismatic. Now before we get into the fashion, there are always 3 shaders that I highly recommend for Prismatic. And these shaders are Hoarfrost Sunrise, Springtide Faint, and a Radiant Charoite. So this is the fashion I made, which is based around Prismatic. As you can see, I'm using 2 of the 3 shaders that I mentioned, and something else I'd like to point out that I'm using is the Pathfinder's helmet. Now I looked through a bunch of like Mactics builds in the past, and I'm not even joking, he literally never takes this off. I see this in most of his builds, which I'm not bashing at all. My profile picture set uses this helmet. Yeah, that's why we use the Pathfinder's helmet. Now the arms I use the Refulgent Revelry. They have these like pointed bits at the top that match really well with the top of the cloak. But you can also see up close why I recommended the shader Hoarfrost Sunrise. On cloth it has this oiled look that is like pink and bluish, and that's why it pairs really well with Prismatic. Now the chestplate is the Vest of the Great Hunt, which is from the Last Wish raid, and the reason why I picked these is because obviously it works well with the shader, but it leads really well into the Thunderhead Strides. Once again, another pick that I just absolutely love. I mentioned this earlier in the video. These boots are just so good, and I would highly recommend transmogging them. And also something else I'd like to mention, the reason why I didn't use Hoarfrost Sunrise on the helmet is because it makes the glow gold, and also it makes it mostly gold, the helmet. You know, the hood comes so far out that most of the time you're not going to see the pink plating, and all you'll see is the glow. So obviously that fits Prismatic, and I think it just looks a lot better. And I also want to quickly show you all a Radiant Charoite, as that was the 3rd shade I recommended as well. You can see up close on plating, it actually has a unique glow. So you can see it's going from pink and it'll soon go to blue. It takes a little bit of time. It just cycles between the 2 colors. So it does fit Prismatic really well. But the main like selling point of the shader is this shattered look it has on plating. Gives off blues and pinks and has white on cloth, so it is pretty much perfect for Prismatic as well. Now for those of you that want to get the exotic ornaments, here is a set I made around it. Now I'm again using Hoarfrost Sunrise as it's a fantastic shader for Prismatic, but what I've also gone and done is use pieces that use like a lot of cloth, so you get a lot of that oily sort of texture with it, so it really looks Prismatic. The chestplate is Untethered Edge, which you get from this season. A very good chestplate, would highly recommend getting it. And then I paired it with the Ace Defiant boots, which are from Leviathan back in year 1. A lot of you might not have this if you join in much later into the game. I just found them to work perfectly with the chestplate. You know, if you want to, you could again just use the Untethered Edge. That's not much of an issue. It adds plating towards the bottom. But it does look really good still. And in the arms, I'm using the Grips of the Great Hunt from the Last Wish raid. Again, it has the oiled look all down the arm, but what I really like is this plated part here that, you know, spikes upwards. and again just fits that sort of design on the cloak. And then for the helmet I use the Chroma Cloak, which is from this season's pass. I know it looks a lot like an emo haircut. If you don't have any of these shaders though, you could just use Bitter Pearl and just go with like a full white look. But anyways, that is my fashion for Mac's Prismatic Hunter build. I'm now going to be moving on to his Prismatic Warlock build, but I have done something different for this one, so I figured I'd base the fashion off of the exotic weapon used in the build, the Euphony. So here it is, my Warlock that I tried to base as much as I could off of the exotic. Now when comparing it to the weapon, you'll see that I've created that split in colour, with the darker colour on top and then the red at the bottom. I also have some gold accents throughout the whole set. So I'm using the new Crucible shader Flame of Fall, which gives a full red and gold look with the Tusked Allegiance boots. The robes are from the Vow of the Disciple raid, and with Whispered Sheen is what created this colour split. I have used these robes before and I think they are fantastic and quite underrated in fashion. I don't really see them that often. And then again, I'm using the Untethered Edge. I absolutely love these gloves, if you can already tell. And then for the helmet, I'm again using Lucenite cover. I know, I've used it a lot. It's just because I love it. I think it looks fantastic. The red matches the visor, which by the way does not shader, so it's red and matches the set. The accent color with this shader is gold with a darker look. It was literally the perfect choice. It's got a sharp look as well, which matches parts of the weapon. And then for the bond, like I said, the exotic class item doesn't do much for fashion, but I am using the ornament as it does fit a lot there with like some of the designs of the robes, especially on the back here. And again, I'm just using Glorious Patina because it's a gold shader. So yeah, that's sort of what I wanted to make. I wanted to make something very unique and different. Because I have, again, like I said, made Prismatic fashion already using Hoarfrost Sunrise, and I didn't really want to repeat what I've already made. So I came up with something a little different and made something for Euphony, which is still part of the build. And like I said, you can't really make like fashion around the bond. I don't think that's really much of a struggle with fashion. It's such a side piece of the fashion itself for Warlock. The robes and the helmet is mainly what you focus on. Yeah, that's pretty much why I went for this fashion instead. But anyways, that pretty much does it for the video. Like I said, it is a different style of content, so if you do want to see more of this, then please leave a like on the video. Also, a massive thank you to Llama, Castle Content and Mactics for allowing me to make fashion for their builds. Be sure to let me know in the comments what creator build you want me to make fashion for next. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend checking out my previous fashion showcase for Prismatic. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.